Hey friends, thanks for joining me, Jim Baroud, to hear a few insights from leaders who represent our innovation ecosystem. Today's chat is with Victoria Montgomery Brown, a media, technology, and education leader, and the author of Digital Goddess, The Unfiltered Lessons of a Female Entrepreneur, and Kelsey Gosserand, writer, speaker, blockchain evangelist, and currently an executive at IBM. Victoria, why don't you start us off?
Sure. So I'm Victoria Montgomery Brown. I am co-founder and until recently CEO of Big Think, which is a knowledge forum that helps people get smarter, faster through the wisdom of the world's leading thinkers and doers across disciplines. So people ranging from Elon Musk to Malcolm Gladwell. And we exited at the end of 2020. So it's still going strong and I hope you will check it out.
Awesome. Kelsey, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Kelsey Gosserand. I'm the worldwide technology sales leader for supply chain with a big focus on sustainability and blockchain. Prior to that, I led a community building engine called Trellis, where we worked with startups and organizations, large companies as well, launching their next big idea in crypto and blockchain.
Great. So we hear about supply chain a lot these days. How is that affected in your job? And you're obviously in tech, but do you feel the effects of supply chain in your job?
Supply chain's affecting everyone. I'm sure you've seen on the news, order your Christmas gifts now if you want to have them delivered on time. I mean, it touches every part of our lives. How it touches me personally and with my work, I think about we're all distributed. We're trying to figure out ways to be more sustainable. How do we get to net zero, like reducing carbon emissions significantly to zero by 2050? And what are some of the things we can do as a company to kind of enforce these better practices? So, tracking travel, camera usage actually really takes up a lot of bandwidth and affects our carbon footprint. So there's a number of things that we're looking at holistically to meet that goal and kind of eat our own dog food because we're selling the solutions to help mitigate that.
Great. And we're going to get into other stuff, Kelsey, because I know you have experience in blockchain and you just told us about an NFT. We're going to get into that too, because that's really fascinating. Victoria, you failed to mention your book. We'll get into that.
Oh,
we'll get into that
yes,
later too.
I am also a author of a book called Digital Goddess, The Unfiltered Lessons of a Female Entrepreneur, which is about the wonders of starting your own business, which is wonderful. It's challenging, but wonderful.
Good. All right. We're going to get into that later. I love the title. So let's talk about that. So you both have had a lot of experience with entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship and ecosystems. Tell us what the state of female entrepreneurship is these days. Are things getting better? Or can they be so much better? Or Kelsey, why don't we start with you?
I think things are getting better, and yes, can also be so much better. I think there's been a lot of visibility on the inequities of female founders and resources that are typically allocated to male founders are disproportionately applied to women founders and other or underrepresented groups. So that's really great that we're talking about that now. I don't have the numbers of new women entrepreneurs hitting the market and in what vertical. I am an investor as well, but I do feel that the space is opening up and we're seeing a lot of interesting, innovative projects come to board.
Yeah, for sure. And as an investor, are you focusing on certain areas or sectors?
Supply chain and blockchain. I mean, saying that sounds really weird. It's like a broken record, but yeah, I invest in supply chain startups.
Got it. All right. We're going to get into that blockchain later. So Victoria, what about you? How do you see things from your vantage point?
I think it's a fabulous time to be a woman founder. I think people are looking to invest in women. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. I think the last 5 years has really sort of changed in that regard. When I started, I was the CEO and co-founder, and I would walk into the room with my other founder who is a guy, and everybody would look to him like, this is the money maker, this is the person who's starting it. And that wasn't the case. And I just think that has totally shifted. There are so many examples of successful female entrepreneurs today. And I honestly think it's an advantage being a woman if you're starting a business today.
Great. Yeah, no, I think things are certainly shifting and there's a lot more attention. So that's certainly helpful. And Victoria, where are you from? I heard a slight accent there.
Yes, you are correct. So I was actually born in Toronto, but my accent is not Canadian. My mother was Irish, so I grew up also in Ireland, and my dad American. So I have 3 different passports and a very muddled accent.
Got it. And you're now in another part of the country, not the New York area.
Yes, I am in I guess does Florida count as the South? I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm in Florida currently, but New York is my home.
Got it. Florida is its own thing.
Yes, it is.
And Kelsey, where are you? And where are you from?
Well, I'm currently in Brooklyn, New York, but I've lived everywhere. I grew up with a military family, so born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and spent my formative years in Europe and came to New York after college. So I now claim New Yorker.
Got it. And did we meet in Montreal or Haiti or Jamaica? No.
I feel like we met in Haiti for Christine's tech conference. And that was an amazing event. And yeah.
And our thoughts and prayers go to that country right now. It's had a really terrible time. So, all right. So female entrepreneurship. Obviously, Victoria, you wrote a book on it. Kelsey, you've had a lot of experiences. Talk to us share some anecdotes about, and it's okay if they're, scary and not so nice, because I think it's important for people to hear about what you guys what women and you guys may have gone through in the past.
I mean, from my perspective, I think I've always looked at being a female or a woman founder as an advantage because it's been heretofore pretty atypical in a way. I mean, not in small scale things because people are constantly starting businesses like restaurants and other services, but in the tech and media space, it's a little bit more rare. And for me, there have been, strange challenges. I mean, I used to work prior to founding Big Think. I worked at Charlie Rose. I was not one of the women that had the experiences that others did, but it's always present, I suppose. And I don't know. I don't really have any bad experiences. I think I've been wary and understanding that danger is out there, so to speak, but have managed to successfully navigate or avoid it, and really played the fact that I'm a woman to my advantage. And I know that's not necessarily PC to say, but sometimes being different is a huge benefit. And it certainly has been for me.
Got it. Kelsey?
I think I've also been pretty fortunate to not have anything, bad happen to me during my experience as a founder. I've definitely experienced, microaggressions, and that adds up and, really informs a lot of the ways I operate currently in business. But my advice to women who are entering that big world of entrepreneurship and founding something for the first time, it's really important to develop a community. And that community can include other female founders, investors, different major companies. It can be vast, but having a community to lean into, commiserate with, learn from is tremendously beneficial. And it's a network that you can always tap into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad you guys mentioned those experiences because that's really important. Now, Kelsey, let's talk to you about the funding outlook. Let's say in general, right now, we're lucky with Zoom, there's investment and there's so much money, right? Or at least it's statistics show we are awash in money in venture capital and angel money. So how do you see, you've seen this throughout the past 5 years or so or more as an investor. How do you see those changes and what we can look forward to going forward?
There's so many different lending or funding instruments, and we're seeing SPACs that are really proliferating. WeWork, I think, went public through a SPAC, and I really have no idea where that market's going to go. But it's been very interesting that there's new routes to going public, which makes me feel incredibly bullish about our future outlook. When I entered the scene, we were launching ICOs, which were, very intuitive for blockchain projects because we wanted to use crypto as a means for that. Now that's fully out of fashion and it's being evolved into other mediums. And I'm excited. I do traditional VC, but what I've seen hit the market in terms of offerings and the amount of money that's out there to offer companies, and they're starting to go public sooner. So it's really interesting, the public aspect and the new companies that are coming to, I'm reviewing for funding. Maybe I should pivot and talk a little bit more about like the portfolio that I'm looking at and what's interesting to me in terms of investments. But I'm looking at early stage companies that are creating interesting, sexy, easy to use resources for enterprise consumers based on supply chain. And so supply chain is the deep industry use case. The implications of where it could be applied, I'm pretty wide in. Some of the more interesting projects are in the CPG space, restaurant space. So I'm just really intrigued by a lot of the new deals that are coming through, and there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Is the number of deals coming through greater, and are the number of investors greater? I think they are. How do you see that sort of? Are we happy with the pipeline? Are we happy with all this, all the possibilities of funding?
I am happy with the pipeline. I would say it's a pretty robust pipeline. I think it's really great when we have a lot of investors. I mean, I think this is general knowledge. Investors came from two camps. They went to Harvard or Stanford, very homogenous profile. So that's expanding. There's a lot of women who are entering the scene as investors. There's a lot of people of color who are entering the scene as investors. So that's increased the opportunities because we invest in people we know, that we trust, that we can validate their networks. And as you get a more robust group of people giving money, you're going to have a more robust group of people submitting deals and opportunities for funding.
Right. No, absolutely. And we have golden seeds, obviously, that's women investors typically. And you're right. The mix of investors is changing, and that's just going to be good for everything. Victoria, how do you see things?
In terms of investment opportunities and the ability to get investment, I think it's easier than ever. Now, I'm not in the midst of starting a company, but I'm sure I will in the next year or so. And I feel like I raised money in 2007. It was hard to do it then. And I think today money is being thrown at bad ideas, honestly, and good ideas too, but even bad ideas because people have so much fear of missing out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know a person who had never started a business, I won't mention his name, but based on an idea on a napkin raised $80 million. And that would not have happened 10 years ago.
Wow. Oh my God. I want to hear what the idea was.
He's an amazing salesperson.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Also, he's a dude with a hoodie, so that helped.
There we go.
It wasn't a known person.
Okay. The hoodie privilege. All right, fine. All right. So funding check is good. Diversity of funders good. Pipeline is healthy. That's all good. Now, what about talent? As far as tech talent, entrepreneurial talent, diversity in talent, right? We hear now there's shortages of talent. particularly during the Great Resignation. How do each of you see that affecting sort of the ecosystem? Kelsey, why don't we start with you?
There's a lot of different ways I can take this. I think if starting with the Great Resignation, I think that it's, the incentive, structure is changing and it's moving into employees wanting, they have leverage now. And they're looking for fulfillment. They're looking for opportunity to advance. And so flipping the script on who has hand in the situation from your employer now to your being empowered as employee, I think is a really great thing. In terms of talent, I see a lot of interesting opportunities coming out that are not just for engineers, developers, designers. I'm seeing a lot of need for soft skills, for sales, for project and product management, for customer success, like managing relationships. And so those soft skills that we were told, to ignore once we moved into the computer age are really of necessity now. And now that we're remote and we're communicating via camera, like how do we really compel others and how do we get on their, kind of win favor? And so having those skills are more important than ever. And so I'm going to be a very glass half full person in terms of if you're looking for work, if you're looking to enter the startup space, I would definitely speak up on how can I leverage those soft skills, those writing skills, communication skills, et cetera, and use that to my advantage.
Well, I'm really glad you said that, Kelsey, because after having run a company for 13 years, I decided to do something called On Deck, which is this very interesting company. And I wasn't looking to it to get a job. I was literally looking to see what is out there. I've been in this one role for 13 years. And I will say that they provide opportunities. You get to see startups and things like that and meet the people who have founded them. And they talk about open roles. From the perspective that I have, just having finished it a couple of months ago, literally 95% of the jobs that people were looking to fill were engineering. And while they spoke a lot about the fact for needing soft skills, if it wasn't sales or serving sales function, they only wanted engineers. And that to me was really disheartening because that's a skill that people can learn, which is great, but it's not a fundamental part of who a human being is. And if you go to this website called Lean Hire, which is great, look at it, and it's literally 95% of the jobs are looking for full stack engineers, any type of engineers. There's nothing on there that is we're looking for a creative person. We're looking for somebody to help us grow our company beyond something technical.
Yeah, so in response to that, finding engineering talent is super hard. And these platforms are going to invest. I mean, it's also expensive to have these platforms. And so they are going to promote those engineering jobs because there's very, very specific job specs and they can crowdsource and usually are successful in hiring from that. They are not great platforms for the softer creative jobs. And so a lot of that is through networks. And I get a lot of job recs, a lot of JDs that are sent my way to, share that are I'm looking for a chief customer success officer. And we don't really have a great job description for that, but here's kind of the qualities that we're looking for. And maybe you can help me mold this. And so it's this new wave of soft skill focused jobs are kind of still being crafted and developed. And I could imagine you're not going to find them on these job boards. They're going to be a lot more curated.
Yeah, no, that's really good insights. But the pipeline should slowly be getting better in the tech area, right? With so much attention paid, so many training programs, right? Shouldn't it be getting better, or is just where you have such a surge of demand that and not entitlement, power from the worker. That is that just a reality we're in for a while now, or will things get better from your perspective, Kelsey?
I feel like it will get better. I feel like companies are going to have to acquiesce to this new normal that we're experiencing and, build in some type of incentive structure that benefits employees, protects them from burnout, allow things like paid maternal and paternity leave. Like the US is way behind in offering employee incentives the same way they are in Europe. So, companies are going to have to update their offerings to be not just monetary, but unlimited time off, vacation, ability to work from anywhere. So, we have to demand that from our companies. And I think once companies catch up to what's happening in other parts of the world in terms of those benefits, you'll see better retention. You'll see those gaps closing a little bit more in terms of open vacancies and jobs and having, this abundance of very qualified people who are still holding out until it's, the right fit.
Right. So, Victoria, you wrote a whole book on, stories about female entrepreneurship. Can you share, maybe one, take a deep dive into one of them?
Sure. I mean, one of the main themes in the book is about transparency. So for me, really putting the negative stuff out there clearly and openly as quickly as you can, I think has served me well, because people know, especially our investors and things like that, knew that I wasn't going to deliver bad news slowly. And I don't know, transparency to me is fundamental in business. And I think we're seeing that now, to use an example of another female founder, Elizabeth Holmes. Like, if you keep stuff under wraps and keep thinking that the bad news is going to go away and that you're going to somehow get over a hump that you have lied about, it's just not going to happen. And I don't know what drove me to be so transparent my entire professional career, but that's something that I would advocate for people. And if you think you're delivering bad news and it's going to get you into trouble, honestly, it's more likely that positive things are going to come from it, because people will trust that you're just not going to hold on to falsehoods. And so that's one thing. So I would say.
All right. Kelsey, how do you see the Holmes, Elizabeth Holmes scandal? Is that sort of, I don't know, how do you view it? I won't lead you into that.
It's very interesting. She is using a very classic playbook of fake it till you make it, and it caught up with her, and now she's paying for it. Where we've seen this in the past with Mark Zuckerberg, with the former CEO of WeWork, I mean, this has happened, and I think she's going to be the one that falls on it. She's going to be the martyr and have to ultimately pay for the classic Silicon Valley sin. And we can learn from it. And we can create more compassionate, vulnerable, radically transparent companies that will get better. And for that vulnerability to happen and transparency, you have to create these safe spaces for people to be able to be honest and feel like they can speak up. And she had a board of directors that were very, they liked each other, but I don't think anyone felt safe to really call out what was happening and question what was happening, especially with the amount of money that was coming in. So it's very interesting that, this is not an isolated situation. And the coverage is really kind of showing that this is happening in a lot of organizations and has happened and proliferated over an extended period of time. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Kelsey, you mentioned blockchain before. Tell us what you're seeing in the blockchain sort of landscape, including crypto. You're in the thick of it. You know a lot about it. Tell us where we're at, can you forecast where we're going?
No, I can't. Yeah, my focus is enterprise blockchain solutions, and that's when you think about why blockchain is amazing for all of the reasons. You can see why supply chain is a really great use case. So it's not very sexy, but it solves a lot of world problems. In terms of crypto, I have no idea where it's going. I got a text this morning about a new Shiba Inu coin. Shiba Inu, the dog. There's a
Oh my
new
God, I'm writing
coin
this down.
that is up 700% as of this morning. And so I can't really keep up with all of the coins that are coming up and what to invest in. I dabble with a few of them, and I don't want to offer any advice here. It's probably dangerous, but I have no idea where the crypto market's going. We have exchanges like Coinbase and Binance that are going down for days at a time. That's throwing everything into a storm. Last week, Bitcoin for 30 seconds went down to 8,500 a coin.
Whoa.
For 30 seconds because someone dumped 500 Bitcoin, like they sold. And so that affected an exchange. So it's in flux, and it's the crypto news feed is like an onion page. It's just ridiculous.
And yet I just saw on CNBC a commercial that Matt Damon, beautiful commercial, promoting crypto.com. So it's really, it's
I can't believe I didn't buy that domain. I mean, I would.
Well, speaking of regrets, what is your biggest regret? Is it that you didn't buy enough Bitcoin, or what would you say?
No regrets. I mean, just put it in perspective. When I bought Bitcoin, it was $215 a coin. So maybe I should have bought more in hindsight. And Ethereum was $6. It's ridiculous to think about like that now, considering how crazy it is. But it's a regrets. In the crypto space, we need more diversity, and it's not a regret, but maybe being more visible in that space and doing more advocating for women and more enablement around resources. I mean, when I first started Trellis, that was really my focus. Like, how do I distill this really financial mumbo jumbo tech nerd stuff that I have to, I'm literally digging through Reddits like an explorer. How do I make this accessible to more people? That's my original love. I don't, the fact that that's not a full-time focus now, when this is like a desperate need, it's not a regret, but it's something that I wish I could kind of expand myself in all areas to do a little bit more of.
Yeah. So before we get to questions, if anyone has questions, please submit them. You had a story about your big NFT success. Share that with us.
So if that's considering it gets sold, but I managed to get in on an NFT, and I want to say it's a pink elephant, or I can't even remember the name of it, and essentially purchased it for, including gas fees, a few $100s. And it's now being relisted for, I would say, $50,000. And it's a 6-month listing. So we'll see what happens. There's apparently, according to Reddit and all the, Discord and crypto news, and there's some unique features that this particular NFT has that's valuable. So it's really funny, and it's kind of like, I'm going to date myself when I say this, but it kind of reminds me when what were those little collectible stuffed animals that everyone had in the late 90s?
Beanie Babies?
Yes. It's kind of like the Beanie Baby craze. They're, limited supply. Each one is slightly different. And, they were going for, wildly like inflated rates. And it was a business. And so, I'm sure people are going to, say this is not a Beanie Baby. But the way these are going off the market, and you can literally NFT anything, like, I don't know what else to compare it to. we can NFT this podcast.
There you go. Let's do it.
We're going to be rich.
Exactly. Before we get some questions, share with us just one thing you recommend to all women who are looking to launch a business.
For me, I just say, just go for it. No time like the present. Just jump right in, get started. That's the hardest thing.
Okay, Kelsey?
I would build a sphere of influence. Like I would build a network and really understand what you're solving for. Like, what is this? What's the pain point you're solving for? Is this a technology solution or can it be something else? But, I'd really focus on honing in on a really, really good pain point use case and validating it through various means. And then like Victoria saying, once you validate it, jump in and you learn by doing. So that'd be my advice.
Got it. And just to emphasize, now it's so inexpensive to start a business. The risks are so low, right? So clearly building out an MVP, get help.
There's so many, oh my God, there's so many programs. I mean, Y Combinator has Startup School, which is fully online, and it's a 13-week program. I really recommend it. So yeah, there's so many ways to get in and build a community around what you're doing.
For kids or young people in high school or college, are there certain, let's say, classes or skill sets you would recommend, or majors you would recommend they take, knowing what you know and knowing the future, like we all know? What would you recommend?
Well, I could do college. Well, I was a theater major, theater, history, and literature. And then my graduate degree was in corporate comms. So I'm very liberal arts focused. If I were to do it again, I'd probably keep all of that. I'd add economics as a major. I just think it's a really great primer. But I actually don't think there's anything specific you should kind of gravitate towards. Like, I'm not going to tell you to get a computer science degree, for instance. There's just too many avenues into tech that having, a special degree, so it's just one of them, one of many.
Well, specifically to that point about computer science, I mean, we always used to say, learn how to code.
Mm-hmm.
And some folks would say, maybe not so important because the AI or machine learning is starting to code and now there's no code stuff. So what's your take specifically on coding?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, where there's a big push for no code. Engineers are expensive and, we want to create beautiful things, tell compelling stories and do it quicker and change and when needed and not have to, do an overhaul in the infrastructure. So if you don't have a inclination for coding, I wouldn't force it.
Great advice. Victoria?
Well, I would say the one drawback that I had being the CEO of a company, which was a media company, knowledge company, but did require a lot of development, that train has passed, I suppose. But back then it would have been super beneficial for me to be able to speak the language of coders, because I didn't know if I was being duped or anything. I had to take people on their word. So if I could go back, I would have studied a little bit of basic coding. Right now, it may not be necessary. And there are all these incredible companies, AI companies, that are doing all the writing even for you and stuff. So who knows right now, but back then I might have done it.
Got it. Let's switch to ecosystems. I know Kelsey was very active in ecosystems, right, and have been in the right now, essentially building community. How is New York doing, Kelsey, these days? And are you hopeful, post-pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, New York is very much alive. I mean, complete 180 from last year. I just got forwarded a list of NFT parties in New York. And I won't be going to any of them because I'll be traveling, but it's very interesting. It's picking up. It's a very robust scene. So I'm optimistic. It's great.
Great. And Victoria, I know you were in the city. Now you're in Florida. What's your take as you view things from Florida?
Well, I go back to New York at least twice a month or more. But as I said to you, the logo or whatever, the marketing pitch is make the Sunshine State the startup state. And as we had discussed before going on air or whatever, that a lot of companies, startups, and even major crypto and finance companies are moving down here. I'm sure partially because of the taxes, but also because people have just realized after a year and a half of, being locked down and stuff, like being outside is not such a bad thing. And so there is a huge movement of interesting tech companies and investment companies that are coming to Florida.
Got it. And I guess we can all agree that wherever you are, you can find the resources to start a business and grow a business. It's so much, it's particularly post-pandemic with Zoom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's investors, being able to source deals everywhere, or people being able to get education or tips online and build networks online. I think we're just in a great sort of golden age, I think, of entrepreneurship. So that's a really good thing. So we're gonna, we usually ask for a poem or a saying, and I wanted to see if you guys can share something with our audience today. So Kelsey, why don't we start with you?
Okay, I'm going to rely on my favorite, Maya Angelou, and it's one that it's quoted by a lot of people, but it holds a lot of sentiment to me. And I'm also going to misquote it, but it's really around, you won't remember what people said or have done to you, but you will always remember how they made you feel. And so I always like to enter a situation or engagement making sure my good feelings sensors are on, so I can, leave that warm and fuzzy feeling after meeting people.
That's a great one. Victoria, go ahead.
Sure. So this is something that my dad used to always say to me and to my siblings, and I'm sure it's Buddhist or something, but it was the notion of seeking what you're looking for, and it was grasp and it will surely elude you, open your hands and it just may come.
That is beautiful. Both of those are great. Well, Victoria, Kelsey, I want to thank you for doing this. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like it, leave a review, and subscribe. See you soon.